Uh, Hi there. So my name is Keenan, and so I've been a Ceph developer for about 1 year now, software engineer for about 5 years, working at IBM, and so I also do a little bit of work on the side, working with the What's Next team at IBM, and uh, I noticed when trying to find a policy for Ceph, and it's not just Ceph, it's most open source projects, that there is no policy around whether or not you can use AI tools, generate code, and submit a PR, whether that's allowed or not. And so the objectives today is just basically to offer my perspective, not just mine, but many people I've consulted with about what might be, some good steps towards doing AI in an ethical way, in a risk-free way, and solving some of the problems that might come with not talking about it openly. Some possible risks to open source in general, and therefore Ceph, and also some interesting finds I've had along the way. So it's more not very technical presentation, more just like a brainstorm, if you like, of some things I found that I found quite interesting. So I thought a good place to start would be the umbrella Linux foundation that governs Ceph has a policy around AI-generated tool use. So just please, if I could ask who has seen this before, that that Linux Foundation has a policy around AI-generated tools. Of course, some people I know will have known this, but okay, so not many people have seen it then. So that's what I expected. I didn't find it until I researched quite deep. Obviously, when you try and search for Ceph, all you find is the self-signed off thing that everybody has to go through for the PRs. But the Linux Foundation does allow it, but with quite a strict condition, which is that that you have to use, that you have to basically probably find a tool that can say something like, okay, here's some AI-generated code, but it looks a lot like this other code that you can find that has a license attached to it. Not many tools do that, especially the raw LLMs that like Claude or ChatGPT or DeepSeek or OpenAI. They all just raw LLMs. They don't provide that feature at all. Some of the other integrated AI tools might have that feature, but they're not all the same. So. But the point is that it's a conditional allowance. It doesn't just say you can use AI. It's very conditional, and it's not easy to meet those conditions. But it should be easy to find if anyone wants to read more about that. But yeah, they say that, of course, people, projects can take their own policies and restrict it further. So the thing that I think everybody will know about is that if you want to submit a PR, then of course you have to do the self-signed off thing. So you have to fulfill certain conditions. One of them is that the contribution was created in part or in whole or in part by me, and that you have the right to submit it under the open source license indicated in the file. But I think that if we're not talking about AI in the policy, then it's open to interpretation. Many people could argue that I did create this, even though I did, use an AI tool. It's just the latest tool for software engineering. So people could say, the point is, if there is no clear AI policy, then people can interpret it to some extent in any way that they like, especially when you have in part by me there. But again, most open source projects have this problem at the moment. It's a very new problem, just like many things around AI at the moment. So it's not specific to Ceph. So obviously there's a lot of challenges around developing an AI-generated code policy. So just very quickly is that it can produce obviously very insecure code, especially if you're not reviewing it. And I think the more that you use AI, the more there is a risk of, you're expected to do more work, so you have to review more code, and that's not easy. Just because it's more efficient doesn't mean that it's an easy process. It can be very tiring to use AI to produce a lot of software. It's not easy at all. It's very hard. So yeah, there's obviously a lot of risk there, especially if the person doesn't really know the language very well that they're using to generate the code. And in particular, it's known to not be very good with auth code. So that's obviously a problem. But that can be circumvented by having a policy that for example, might restrict AI-generated code in that specific area. Or you could have recommendations, telling people, okay, if you're going to use AI tools, maybe use it in languages that you know well, and maybe follow these guidelines. So it's not necessarily something that we can't get past. Hallucinations are one of the biggest problems that I'll still see. And in fact, even with the smartest models now, hallucinations are actually getting worse. Like with the O3 from OpenAI is a very smart model, but sometimes it just completely forges information and documents and pretends like it's completely accurate, but it's a complete lie. And scarily, it looks very feasible. So it's a big problem with AI. It doesn't seem to be going away at the moment. It's, in fact, in some cases, getting worse. But this can be circumvented by just using AI responsibly, not relying on it. I think especially people who are quite good software developers, like most, all of you that are software developers, if you're using AI in a responsible way, you don't have to worry about that. This is more for people who are, abusing AI, which is, of course, going to be common as well, especially with people who have learned how to be a coder relying on AI. Yeah, of course, complications related to legal stuff and company policy, that's the problem. But policies can change at any time. So you might be working for a company that restricts AI use. So you might be thinking, what's the point of having an AI policy when I'm not even allowed to use AI at all? But the point is that this can change tomorrow. Things change quite a lot, especially a lot of these policies tend to be a bit outdated, especially now. This is, I think the biggest one is that there is a lot of legal complexities of a formal AI policy. So about copyright and what does it mean to steal some code. It's very complicated, and of course I can understand why people might not have the appetite to actually formulate a policy, because you need a lot of legal resources, you might say, to do that. But I think one thing I would say about that is that we work for companies that already have legal teams, within AI teams. And actually speaking to the folks at IBM, a lot of them said that they should be happy to work with projects like Ceph in helping to formulate, or at least helping to walk in the right direction. So we have those resources there. So have we tried walking down the corridor and seeing if we can have a conversation and make things a little bit easier in that realm? But there's also the legal complexity of not a formal policy, but the fact that what happens if we don't address the issue of AI. So if we're not even talking about policy, should we have a policy or not? Or there's also the problem of the fact that AI-generated code exists and people use it a lot. And so that is a risk of stolen code getting into the code base, and then we can't sell stolen code. Any company that is selling Ceph can't sell stolen code. So how can we deal with that? Because right now there's a lot of pending lawsuits against particular AI companies. Recently there was one that actually passed. So somebody claimed somebody stole their data. It was two law firms, and the plaintiff won the case. So I think when that happens, it kind of can set the trend and really be a good idea maybe to keep an eye on how we can improve security, or at least take some steps in the right direction to preventing things like that happening, especially since last year, so Stack Overflow, a place where you might expect there to be very skeptical people around AI and just thinking, no, I don't want to use that at all. There's actually a survey done last year that said about 76% of people use it or are planning to use AI tools in their development process, and that was last year. So it's there, it's being used. I think oftentimes people don't talk about it a lot and don't talk about it openly for many reasons, but I think just the fact of the matter is it's there, right? I'm not somebody who's against AI. There's a lot of great ways to use it if it's used in the right way. If you understand the risks or the limitations of AI, then you can really understand how to use it in the right way. And of course, one of the best advantages of using it is higher productivity. You can push features faster. There was a client yesterday that said that he would love to see 9.1 a lot faster. for example, that's something that could be possible if software engineers were to responsibly adopt AI tools. We could push things a lot faster, and not just generating code, but there's the whole writing unit test. There is debugging. There is learning for people like me who is just getting into Ceph and trying to learn a very complex, large code base. It can really help with that. It's definitely helped me a lot with that. And then you have having an AI policy, not just AI in general, but an AI policy would help us align better with ethical and legal concerns, because the nature of open source is that everybody is honest, is that this PR that I'm submitting is connected to me. It's my contribution. In a sense, is my creativity. I put in the effort to make this piece of code. So I think that's AI in general. I'm not saying a policy would fix that, but AI in general is a threat to that culture and that ethos, I think. And of course the legal concerns would it help to have more of a talk about how we can circumvent some of those legal concerns. Again, not necessarily an AI policy, but other ways. And so interesting finds is that there are new tools that are around just to, just for this problem. So Black Duck is integrated into Git. It scans any new PRs and it just tells you if it's been stolen or not, basically, or if it looks like something else. And they don't just have open source code index. They also have proprietary code that they can compare against. So that's useful. I'm not being paid to promote Black Duck. It's just something I found. There are many other tools out there, open source, and that you can use that are less complicated or less integrated into Git, but are free to use. There is also, me working for IBM doesn't make me biased here because I don't work for What's the Next team specifically, but they do actually have a really great model because it's very open source. Open source model, of course, meaning you can download it and use it for free, but also that in the case of the Granite model is that it actually, you can read exactly what they've trained their model on. So you can go online, find their white paper on the Granite model, and you can see at least the groups of places where they've gotten their data from. You can actually see that, and I think that's the only model that I've seen where you can actually they've had that level of transparency. So there are different models out there, right? We don't have to look at all AI tools when there are different approaches to AI. So the Watson Code Assistant also has a level of an offering of IP indemnity, and that's because they have a security layer. So anything that the Watson Code Assistant, which is running with Granite in the back end, anything that it generates, it will then go and look, is this generated code something that looks very similar to something in the training data? And if so, it won't give you the code. So that's a very secure way of doing it. I know there are other tools that do this kind of scanning, looking at similar code, but not necessarily that strong. So yeah, that's a good example. And I actually ran into this security layer myself, so I tried to generate some code, and it said no. And and it even gave me a link to the actual file that the code was going to be too similar to. So yeah, there are some tools that are doing similar things, but I thought this one was quite strong. And of course, when it comes into integrating AI and not just experimenting with it in a business sense, it's very, very important to have a good security layer and good governance around it, and not doing it senselessly. So yeah, a bit of a conclusion is that the main point was see if we can have a bit more open discussions about these kinds of risks and possible advantages of adopting AI in a more open way, and there's obviously plus sides to using AI too. It's not just all about doom and gloom, but also it can really make things a lot better for all of us if we use it in the right way. And so thanks especially to people who helped me to prepare for this presentation. I know Bill's helped me quite a lot with preparing for it, and there's people on the What's the Next team who've helped me go over this and steered my research in the right way. So thanks, and thanks for listening as well.